Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Marvel Comics Presents Wolverine number 2, cover dated mid-September 1988. So Marvel Comics Presents would come out every 2 weeks at the time, no advertisements, and an anthology of stories about different Marvel characters, the lead story being about Wolverine. The cover is by Alex Saviuk, an artist that I associate more with Spider-Man, and inked by Klaus Janson. So you get a very interesting treatment of Saviuk's pencils on this cover. Some classic Klaus Janson techniques as well, where there's brushwork going on here on the pencils, as well as cutting in some white media too. Now, this cover might remind you a little bit about Todd McFarlane's famous cover to Incredible Hulk number 340, where similarly Wolverine has his claws extended, but we see the reflection of the Hulk on the adamantium claws. And what's intriguing is that this cover comes after that one. So the Incredible Hulk cover earlier in the year, cover dated February 1988, this coming afterwards. So a pretty bold move to, in a sense, recreate that cover, but without the device of any reflection in the claws there. Let's open this one up to the credits page and splash page for the Wolverine chapter. So Wolverine, the story is Save the Tiger. The particular chapter title is The Bad Guy. The creative team, writer Chris Claremont, penciler John Buscema, inker Klaus Janson, letterer Tom Orzechowski, and colorist Glynis Oliver. And we have a little kind of preview summary of the content of this particular chapter, part 2 of 10. Wolverine has come to the island of Madripoor at the request of a dying man. Why is it everyone who finds out about that wants to kill him? Because that's what happened at the end of the first installment. Everyone in the Princess Bar pulled guns on Logan when he said he was there for the sake of a dead man, Davis Chapel. So here we go, we get our first look at the bad guy. Who does he remind you of? What actor does he remind you of? Well, he reminds me a little bit of Vincent Price. Vincent Price maybe bulked up a little bit in John Buscema's trademark style. And the first piece of dialogue he utters is, "Young gentleman, I'm displeased." So who's he talking to? But again here, I really love the way that Klaus Janson is inking over Buscema's pencils. We have, obviously, he's working with an ink brush here, and just the fun he's having there, blacking in the background behind Roach, because that's the name of this particular character. Let's turn the page and see who he's addressing. Well, he's addressing the thugs who were in the Princess Bar in the previous installment and who were run out of the bar by Logan. And so Roach here continues and says, "I set you the simplest of tasks, the chastisement of an innkeeper, that's O'Donnell, who refused my most generous offer of protection, and you failed." So Roach is a racketeer, and what do the thugs say as they kneel there in front of him? "Mr. Roach, please sir, we did our best, everything was going great till that stranger showed." So that's Logan showing up as a stranger in Madripoor, and a fly in the ointment for Mr. Roach's racketeering game. And against him, says Roach, "for all your numbers, not to mention your vaunted prowess in the martial arts, you are less than nothing," as he feeds his koi carp. "You are my hands, the public image of my strength. If you lose respect, so also do I." So they're apologetic. They say they'll do better. Really love the side profile of Roach here as he holds his cigarette holder there, the smoke blowing away from it. Yeah, really interesting spotting of blacks by Janson there over Buscema's pencils. And Roach says, "I have already engaged an enforcer to take your place. If you defeat him, you may remain in my service." So now we're going to get established for us how tough this new enforcer is. And look at the state of him there. He's kind of like wearing a wrestling costume in ways. And also, clearly he's got no hands. His name is Razor Fist, and the duel is to be to the death with him. So they're surrounding him there. It looks like they've got the numbers versus him. And immediately we get a Glynis Oliver speciality. The background there, blood red, to coincide with the violence of Razor Fist basically gutting this first thug that came at him. So he's slashing. We get some martial arts there. Really, really smooth storytelling, and interesting choice of angles and perspectives from John Buscema, exactly what you'd expect of a master of the medium. Another great page of fight choreography here. Razor fist striking right through this particular thug's stomach and right out his back. So I was thinking that was a device of Frank Miller's back on his original Daredevil run in 1979, 1980, 1981, where whenever Elektra would cut through a character, their shirt would stick around the edge of the blade, so you wouldn't see the blade coming out the back of a character. And that's not the case here in 1988. We see that blade sticking right out of the thug's back. So he skewers this guy at the side again. Glenn Sullivan there using a red background for the violent moment. This guy thinks that his best course of action is to hold Roach himself hostage. You're going to be my ticket out of here, Roach, or I'll gut you where you stand. And this is interesting. It establishes that Roach is not just an intellectual type, a criminal mastermind, but also has some martial arts prowess of his own. So he cracks the guy in the hand there, drops his sword, lifts him right up. He's got tremendous strength, and says to him, I shall indeed be your ticket out of here from this world to the next. Snaps his neck just with his left hand and drops him in the pool where his body is going to be eaten by the koi carp. And then he turns to Razor Fist, congratulating him on his performance, saying to him, your dossier and reputation are not exaggerated. I trust you can do as well against the stranger my former employees encountered at the Princess Bar before he disrupts any more of my activities. And Razor Fist says, the man's history, Mr. Roach, splendid. Once he's eliminated, we can then deal with this upstart tiger who presumes to challenge me. What I find interesting too about Razor Fist is we don't learn anything about why does he have blades for hands. Was he in an accident? Did he do it voluntarily? Did he cut off his own hands? What's his backstory? We don't learn that because we're not concerned with any of that. We're moving along at a pacey clip through the story. And at this point we go back to the Princess Bar. The stranger in town, Logan, drinking down his beer there. The guns are pulled on him and he's not breaking a sweat. So O'Donnell's questioning him regarding his mention of Davis Chapel. A fortnight ago he disappeared, he says. Now you show, tossing his name around, I want an explanation. So Logan, very easy about the situation he's in, says, pretty rude attitude, bub, considering how I saved your hide tonight from the local crime lords, strong-arm punk boys. And O'Donnell replies, if you're a friend, the place is yours. If not, all bets are off. So Logan drops this locket on the table, or this cameo on the table, and says, of Davis Chapel, I found Chapel in the desert. He'd been tortured by an expert. Those wounds and exposure finished him. He asked me to return this keepsake. And O'Donnell says, this cameo's the lady this place is named after. So that's the princess in question and her partner. So who is this and this? She'll be glad to get it, he says, but I get the feeling, chum, you're not telling everything. I'm not, says Logan in his first person narration, but that's my business. So Logan replies to them, suit yourself, you want to make a play, bub, be prepared to take the consequences. I love, the body language there of Logan jutting up the cigarette that's hanging on his lips in, like I'll draw on Freud here, like a phallic challenge to O'Donnell and the barman. And in his first person narration, he says he's tempted of O'Donnell. It's in his eyes and stance and scent. Not a man to back off from a challenge. Be an okay scrap too, if it was fair. So he's impressed by O'Donnell and how tough he is. But for a normal human being, no matter how tough, against me, ain't no such word as fair. Maybe O'Donnell realizes that. Smart fella. So O'Donnell holsters his gun and says to Logan, okay, chum, I'll take you at your word for now. And then the cigarette drops. So the prospect of a fight is off. And then I really like this. This really kind of leans into the hard-boiled film noir atmosphere of this particular story, where the woman cozies up now to Logan again. You've impressed O'Donnell, stranger, she says. That doesn't happen often. Impress me too. That happens even less. She introduces herself as Sapphire. But Logan, as he finishes his beer, sees this reflection on the the panels at the back end of the Princess Bar. And he thinks to himself, it's the oldest offer in the book. Excuse me. From the kind of woman who makes it almost irresistibly tempting. But then, figure in the doorway, something awfully familiar about it, watching me. So the figure flees. And is it a man? Is it a woman? We're not quite sure at this moment, but those sure are some slim ankles, so maybe it's a woman. Our eyes cross for all of a split second, says Wolverine. But she knows she's been spotted. She's sharp, very wary. I'm curious, so I follow. I love the abstract nature of the sketches here. Just really great confidence from Buscema in suggesting the characters here. O'Donnell looking over his shoulder, this woman in the foreground here with her cocktail glass, and Logan stalking away, running out the Princess Bar. No sign of her, but that's no problem for a mutant with parahuman ultra keen senses. And then he smiles, got her, clear as mountain air, but again, a nagging familiarity, a scent I've encountered before. So a figure from Logan's past, but who could it be? Last page now of the story. Interesting little use of a screen tone there by Klaus Janson in the background as Logan crawls along the rooftops of Lowtown Madripoor, saying to himself he's a hunter. City or country makes no difference in the end. I always nail whatever I'm after. So he jumps down right in front of, as it turns out, a woman. Nice run, darling, he says to her, but it's over. How's about you and me have ourselves a chat? So she says no, and she socks him one straight in the nose. But of course, Logan's skeleton is laced with adamantium, and she really feels that punch. Stop it, girl, I don't mean you any harm, he says. You keep struggling, you'll only hurt yourself. And then suddenly he recognizes her. I swing her into the streetlight for a decent look at her face and discover why she's so familiar. You, I know you, he exclaims. Janson Hoan. So there's no explanation at the end of this chapter as to how he knows her, but readers of Uncanny X-Men might remember the name from issue number 229 by Chris Claremont and Mark Silvestri from earlier in the year, where Janson Hoan was abducted by the Reavers to their hidden outback base in Australia, which was then taken over by the X-Men, and Janson at the end of it walked through the Siege Perilous given to the X-Men by Roma. So here she's turned up in Madripoor. So Claremont returning to this character, and he's got something in mind for her in the course of this storyline. Well, I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Marvel Comics Presents issue number 2. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comment section. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like and share the video. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.